Hello drummers and other creatures. In this video I'm going to give you some insights into how to develop that sort of continuous, chattery, ghost note snare drum thingamajig that can sound really good with funky stuff in particular. This is an attempt to answer a question put to me by someone on Instagram who showed me a brilliant track called Stars Align by Flaco Collective, someone I've never heard of before, but they're really good, funky band, a bit Afrobeaty, funk, that kind of thing. Anyway, I'll put a link to the tune, but the groove sounds a little bit like this. Let's start off with the practice pad. All good journeys start with the practice pad, I would say. What we're trying to achieve with this kind of groove is to be able to play an accented snare note and then let the ghost notes run on from there. So it's a good thing to try and focus on the specifics of the hand movements on their own first. The chap that contacted me with the question about this seemed to be trying to play maybe just all rebounds. And I would say he's on the right path there, but you really need to have the hand moving the stick as well so that you're in control and you can keep some nice consistent ghost notes. Ghost notes, ghost notes. So let's do an exercise to work on that. And a lot of stuff, I don't think this gets really articulated very often, maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of this is about like learning the right amount of work versus relaxation, how to work with the rebound of the stick, let it do as much as it can for you, but also how to be sort of actively pursuing the thing that you want. So it's like having a nice balance between work and laziness, if you like. So we're going to see how long we can do this. I can't remember, something in the back of my head makes me think this came from Joe Morello, but I don't know, I can't remember a source for this. But we're going to start off with like some flam taps. And when we play the flam tap, we're basically sort of playing a double stroke where we have a sort of accented first note and then the tap afterwards. Now with the flam, I've got a downstroke and a tap. So I'm kind of repressing the rebound of the stick somewhat, but also there's some energy in the stick that I can release so it can play the pad or the drum again. So we're going to already start to try and get a feel for the extent to which I'm letting the stick use the physics of the situation it finds itself in, and to which extent I'm applying a bit of control from my muscles and my brain and whatever. Now I'm going to add another tap, so we've got flam, tap, tap. So you're playing 3 notes in a row with each hand. And you're going to pay attention to then, you get a bit of rebound there, but your hand has to help a little bit more to play that extra stroke. So how much energy is there in the stick that you can take advantage of, and how much do you need to input to the situation? And as we add more taps, I'm going to go flam, tap, tap, tap this time. We're going to see how much help I need from my hand. And I'm using, what I would consider to be just rebound strokes. So I'm letting the stick bounce along nicely. I'm keeping as relaxed as possible. I'm paying attention to my fulcrum, the way I'm holding my stick with the thumb and index finger. I've got my other 3 fingers wrapped around the stick, but I'm not really getting into the particulars of how to hold the stick, however you're doing that. But I'm trying to just sort of feel the balance again between the bounciness of the stick and the amount of sort of motor I need to add with my hands. So we've got flam, tap, tap, tap. Let's do flam, tap, 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 tap. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 6. And I'm trying to pay attention to using my hand on its own to move the stick. I don't need anything happening here. I might notice tensions coming up, muscles acting in my forearm, my upper arm, even up to my neck, back of my head, stuff like that. When I'm concentrating on stuff, I tend to notice the way my muscles are working. And when I notice anything moving that doesn't contribute directly to this, I try and relax it and let go. So we were at 6, let's go to 7. You might find as you do this exercise, you might get a bit sort of too loud with your extra notes. So remember, you've got one accent and then you're trying to follow that with essentially ghost notes. So we're playing the sticks quite close to the drum. Finally, we have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's that. And you can play this exercise, you know, in some sort of sequence, starting from flam tap, do each pattern twice, or you could just sit and do each count flam tap, then 3 taps, 4 taps, and so on. You know, you sit with that for as long as you like. See how you get on with that. But the idea being there that you build up some facility to kind of keep that little bounce going. I would sort of work on form at first, so I don't want to say how long you should spend, but you know, spend a good amount of time, find a comfortable setting on your click, and play enough that it's relaxed enough that you can really pay attention to how your body feels, and then once you feel that you're getting the hang of that, then I would push the speed a little bit and you know, make an active attempt to build the exercise towards going as fast as you can. Next, let's take it to the drum kit setting. That's where you want to be, really, isn't it? We're going to focus on the snare hand, my left hand, your whichever hand plays the snare, but we're going to be focusing on that hand. But we're going to essentially run through the same set of exercises, starting with an accented note with 1 ghost note, so 2 strokes with the 1 hand. And when we do that, there's not much work goes into the second stroke. It's the same mechanics as when you play a flam tap. Big difference being obviously the feel of the snare drum compared to a practice pad. You could practice the practice pad exercise on your snare as well to maybe adapt to that, or just adapt to it. So let's just play a basic beat. Do your best to pay attention to the way the stick feels in your hand. Notice how much energy you need to put into the initial stroke and the little control that you have to add so that the stick just bounces once and then stops. There's a little bit of action happening in your hands and your fingers. Now, you could do all of this using finger pumping and all of that. I personally don't. I'm just getting the use of my hand going up and down using the hinge that is my wrist there. And I think that I've got more control with that. I've worked on finger stuff, and it's hard to say that I can isolate and that I'm not using my fingers at all. And there are people who make all sorts of declarations about how they're using their hands to manipulate their sticks, but when you look closely, it's not always what they say. So I think we can deceive ourselves a little bit with what we're doing. But so I'm not really intending to use my fingers. It's all going to be this stuff. Next, we had like the main accent and the first ghost note. Now we're going to do accent and second ghost note. So it would be 2 E an counts wise. That was 3. Now, I feel that I need to put a little bit of energy back into the stick there. To get the best sound out of the snare, very often you want to play the middle, but you might find that if you move the ghost notes a little bit off to the side, you'll get a little bit more bounce from the drum, and the drum head is going to help you a little bit more. So you can experiment with that. Obviously, if you go too far out to the side, you might compromise what you want to hear from the sound, so it gets increasingly dub reggae-y as you go to the edge. Also, you want to make sure that you still strike your main backbeat in the middle of the drum, so the accented note in the middle, and then you can move off to the side a little bit. Let's go for 4, so it'd be 2 E an the 2 being accented, E an being soft. Next we're going to do 5, so that comes into the third beat, the first note of the third beat, and we're going to listen and make sure that we really land nicely there. If you do this to a click, which you should really, when you hit that next quarter note, be sure that that's nice and accurate. If you have a consistent little bit of drift there, that's called feel, right? But when you find the quarter note, be spot on with it. I hope that makes sense. Next we're going to play 6 notes, 1 accent and 5 ghost notes, so getting into the 3 E and the 1 E, I guess, as you cycle back. And I'm paying attention. I notice as I increase the number of ghost notes I'm playing, I get a bit of tension here in my forearm, in the this muscle, whatever that might be called. sometimes the shoulders going up. As I said, the neck, I tend to notice a little bit. And you'll notice that I'm not playing any particular bass drum pattern. I'm just letting whatever happens happen there. If you're doing this for the first time, maybe just keep the bass on the 1 and the 3 and keep it really simple. But as you learn how to play this and you get the form of it, it gets more comfortable, then start paying attention to moving the bass around a little bit, because obviously, you know, when you're using this for real, you might be playing any kind of groove pattern and you want to be able to keep that nice consistent ghost note thing happening, you know, without disruption, no matter what's going on in the bass drum department. Okay, 6 I did, 7. I'm going to go up to 7 and leave a little gap before my next backbeat, my next accent happens. It's another story to go, you know, and play the note just before the snare drum and you have a whole pull-up thing. Not really addressing that in this video, but it's worth working on as well. And I've done other videos like paradiddle groove exercise video that might be of interest to you to develop all that business, but let's put that on the side for a minute. Onwards with the 7. So I'm going 2 E ana, 3 E an, okay? And then 1 E ana, 2 E an, no, 4 E ana, 1 E an as well. Show don't tell. Ooh, see, I didn't feel that comfortable with that, so I found it was challenging to keep that nice and consistent, as no doubt you heard. And it made me really notice where I was holding my stick. I felt I was holding my stick a little bit far back, so I adjusted where I had my grip on the stick, and I tried to find the point where I had the most relaxed, sort of reboundy feel there. Also, obviously, I've been playing a little bit off the center of the drum to see how that feels, and you know, you should experiment with those things as well. Now, like I suggested with the practice pad, I would work on the form of this exercise first, so making sure that you know how to play it, that you're comfortable with all the different numbers of ghost notes you can apply, and then work it up for speed once you really got used to playing all of those patterns. Figure out what's a nice relaxed tempo for you with your metronome, and then, ooh, it's weird doing all of this because there's always things buzzing everywhere. It's not that weird, but yeah, figure out a good tempo on the metronome to do it. Work to the point that you know you can like play it nice and relaxed, as I say, focusing on form, getting really consistent sound, and then when that starts feeling a bit boring and easy, then start pushing the tempo. And you can then do that as an entire sequence, so that you start with just one accent and a ghost note, and then 2 ghost notes, 3 ghost notes, and so on, and just play through the whole little thingy. Hope that makes sense. Shall I run through that for the end of the video or not? Yeah, go on, let's do it. I'll run through the sequence. 1, 2. Did I do that correctly? I'm not even sure. You got the idea though anyway. And that will do. Thank you very much for watching this. Have a go. play that as much as you like. Work up the speed of that, obviously, and then if you really like, what am I saying? I'm getting tongue-tied now. That's not good. I haven't made enough videos. I'm losing my mojo. If you want to, then just pick maybe 4 or 5 ghost notes to get up to a faster speed, because you might not be able to get the string of 7 notes to be as quick as a string of 4 notes, obviously. So it might be then to try and get up to speed with songs you want to play. You kind of focus on playing maybe 4 and 5 note little runs there and put more attention into that, but still do the other routine going up to 7 notes. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. If you're the chap from Instagram watching this, I hope that kind of helps to answer your question. Let me know in the comments, and also whoever you are in the comments, let me know what you thought of this. If you have any questions, please ask them and I shall attempt to respond with a video in the future. Thank you very much. It's time for you to go off and practice.